We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Wednesday, kind of a busy week going on. Old Soul will be on the show tomorrow, so we got that going for us. Ed, hopefully, will be on later in the week, and we've got some other folks in the mix as well. So, a lot of guests coming, but not tonight. Just me today, tonight, whatever it is, whenever you're listening to this. It's just going to be me today, much like it was yesterday. And I got to be honest with you, I felt a little out of it yesterday. I mean, I didn't feel bad, but toward the end, sometimes when I finish a podcast, my stomach feels upset and such. I think it has to do with talking so much and sucking so much air and maybe having ate the wrong thing during the day. I'm good now, though. We'll be fine. So if I seemed a little low energy yesterday, that probably is why. Today, I'm feeling fine. Of course, we're not at the end of the podcast yet, so we'll wait and see, but I think I'll be okay. 99.9% of the time, I'm good. Anyway, what happened yesterday? Well, of course, we've got the verdict back on Hunter Biden's criminal case in Delaware. He had three charges against him, um, two for making false statements, and one for possessing a gun while addicted to drugs. Now, he was convicted of all three charges. Somebody came to my page and said, "You said he was going to get off." I've never fucking said that. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I said the evidence was pretty compelling. I thought he might get off because the fact that it was even being tried was kind of a bullshit case. In most situations, it would have never been taken to court. The only reason it was taken to court is because the Republicans got behind it, forced the special counsel to do it, and that's why he was on trial. So, in that regard, they could have just let it go. But that's something you've got to understand, and it shows the stark difference between Republicans and Democrats, specifically Joe Biden. The DOJ under Joe Biden are the people who prosecuted Hunter Biden. Joe Biden could have fired the special counsel, told this whole situation to disappear, and he didn't do that. He let the rule of law go through the process. He didn't try to infringe on his son being convicted. Um, Not once did you ever hear Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or anybody else claim that this was fake and this is weaponizing the DOJ, when in fact it was. It was a weaponization by the Republican Party. Nobody, nobody complained and whined. There was nobody marching in front of the courthouse. Nothing like that. And this just shows the difference, the stark difference between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are adults. They have a little bit of integrity. They have an appreciation and a respect for rule of law. Now, what's going to happen to Hunter Biden, we don't really know. The sentencing hasn't come up yet. He could get jail time. He could get a significant amount of jail time. But much like Donald Trump, it's his first offense and it wasn't violent in nature. And it's kind of a bullshit case anyway. So he may get off with probation, but whatever he gets, we're good with it. And the Republicans are kind of freaking out about it because they don't understand why we aren't in outrage, why we aren't doing the things they would do. And again, like I said before, because we're adults, we have a little integrity. Um, and I thought that once Hunter Biden would get convicted, assuming that happened, that the Republicans would be happy and say, "See, there's Hunter Biden. He got convicted." And really, that's their plan. They don't really have any substance, strategy, policies, nothing like that. Their whole goal is um, to equivocate uh, Joe Biden with Donald Trump. Joe Biden's just as bad as Donald Trump. And that was the goal. Let's get Hunter Biden convicted. And then we can say Hunter Biden got convicted. Joe Biden must have been just as bad. So see, Donald Trump has all these convictions. Yeah, but so does Hunter Biden. They're trying to equivocate it. Sorry, bitches, that's not going to work. It's a lame attempt. And once again, you failed. Now, the confusing thing about Hunter Biden being convicted, the contradiction for Republicans is this: Hunter Biden gets convicted of purchasing a gun when he was addicted to drugs. Why this is unusual is because I thought the Republicans were staunch behind the Second Amendment. They thought anybody could have guns at any motherfucking time to do anything they want in any amounts. Everybody apparently but Hunter Biden. In fact, there's a decision coming down from the Supreme Court later this month, along with the immunity case, where the Supreme Court has to decide whether or not domestic abusers can have guns. How do you think that's going to go down? You think they're going to take away guns from domestic abusers? I don't think so. But we can agree that the Republicans do believe that drug addicts should not buy guns. And you know what? I'm with you there. We should not have drug addicts buying guns. We shouldn't have alcoholics buying guns. We shouldn't have crazy people buying guns. But they've narrowed it down to drug addicts. So I have an idea. If you're that crazed about drug addicts buying guns, and I'm with you there, how about we do this? How about anybody can buy a gun at any time, but you got to take a drug test first? How's that going to fit in the Second Amendment? How are you going to like that, motherfucker? Of course, they won't like that. Then how can you find Hunter Biden guilty if there is no doubt untold numbers of Trumplafucks that are drug addicts who own guns? Maybe we should take it a step further. Start giving people drug tests now. And anybody that is a drug addict that currently has a gun, we'll just take those motherfuckers. How about we do that? How about that? This is the thing about Republicans. Like I say, they don't think beyond the end of their nose. They're just trying to make Joe Biden look bad. And you know what? They fucked up again because they didn't make Joe Biden look bad. Joe Biden isn't going to pardon him. He didn't step in the middle of it. He didn't try to stop it. He didn't make even any comments about it. He just commented as a father about his son. But even that was pretty tame. They wanted Joe Biden to look bad in this situation. And you know what they did? They made him look like the only adult in the room who handled this properly. They made him look good. So, way to go, Republicans. You fucked up again. We'll talk more about that in a minute because there's more to the case that you should know about. That said, we do have some emails, as we always do. First one starts out, "Hi, Mike. I had to catch up on the podcast. Both the podcasts with Ed and the TikTok Live podcast were great. You mentioned the idea of impeachment for Alito and Thomas. As far as I know, it takes 2/3 of the Senate to convict in an impeachment. It would take 67 senators to remove either of them. It's not impossible, just hard with the current divisions between the parties. Well, it's impossible right now, and it's unlikely in any other circumstance. But, this goes back to what I'm saying. We need to win the House and the Senate, and we need to decide it, do it decisively. So let's make a goal. Let's get 67 Democratic senators in the Senate. Now, that sounds like a crazy thing, but keep in mind who's in the Senate and how the Republican look at this point. I'm not saying it's possible, but a boy can dream, can he? Email goes on, "No one should be surprised that Dirty Diaper Donnie said he didn't care for his voters. He just needed their vote. He said the same thing during the blizzard and sub-zero temperatures during the Iowa caucuses, and a commenter on my TikTok pointed out that he said the same thing during the 2020 with COVID. These dumb fucks can be told to their faces he doesn't care about them, and they still cheer. I've heard that they have to pay people to come to his rallies. Yeah, that's what I hear too. I wonder if Donnie knows about that. Could his eagle handle the blow to know that the people cheering for him are only in it for a few bucks? Thanks, Eric." Well, he may not know because I think a lot of his people keep things from him. They got to keep daddy happy so he doesn't lose his shit. That said, if there was going to be a small crowd, I wouldn't put it beyond him to knowingly pay these people because it's all about perception with Donald Trump. He's got to look good, even if he has to pay for it. I got to think, though, that paying for it's getting a little harder, though. I think money's harder to come by for Donald Trump as of late. All right. Thank you, Eric. That's Eric from Iowa. He's been on the show. Will no doubt be on the show in the near future. The next one says, "Hi, Mike. I watch a lot of news, and I haven't heard much on how his 34 felonies will affect him if he should run. Foreign affairs, most countries won't let him in. Nuclear codes, he can't have a gun. If he's given house arrest, how does he run the country from Mar-a-Lago? The Democrats need to get more down and dirty. I don't mean lie about everything, but repeat shit over and over and over and over again, like he does. Thanks for all your hard work. It's much appreciated. I've been listening from the beginning, and you definitely helped me stay more calm. Take care, Becky. Well, thank you very much, Becky. And you're right. We've got to keep running this shit up the flagpole and keep reminding people of the 34 felony charges and all the egregious shit that he does. We do have to get tougher, the Democrats, that is. And I think they are starting to do that now. Some of the commercials coming out are getting under Donald Trump's skin, like the one the Lincoln Project did. The Lincoln Project did one about his reported comments about um, veterans that have died, military men that have died. It was back when he was visiting Normandy, much like Biden did. The difference is Biden paid respect and Donald Trump insulted him. And John Kelly, the chief of staff at the time, a former general, said that Donald Trump said that they were suckers and losers, the ones that died in Normandy. Now, there's no reason to not believe John Kelly, and frankly, it sounds exactly like something Donald Trump would say, so I buy it. Well, they incorporated that, Lincoln Project incorporated that into a commercial, and that made Donnie Trump pissed. He's trying to get them to take it down. He's threatening to sue. Yeah, why don't you go sue him, Donnie? You got so many fucking lawsuits in the works now. Don't you have enough to do? But we need to take a clue from that. If we can get under his skin with that, there's any number of things we can get him with. And you're absolutely right, Becky. We need to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and shove it down their throat, just like the Republicans do. So you're on track. I'm in agreement with you. Next one says, Hi, Mike. I have an important message for all Republicans out there. The seemingly absence of Melania at the side of the President Trump during his trial, all fake news, a hoax, and a witch hunt. True Republicans know that she is very busy grifting money for her beloved man. She has put out many cheap pieces of jewelry, like Trump's golden sneakers and many other useless pieces of crap, which are all meant to his blind followers. Real patriots should give all of their money and savings to Donald Trump. As the next president, he will then return the favor by cutting tax to the wealthy again and eliminate the unimportant Medicare, money for schools, and so forth. That's the real American way. Go MAGA, Panzer. And again, a reminder for those of you who aren't catching on, Panzer's tongue is planted firmly in his cheek. Thank you, Panzer. Next one says, Hi, Mike. Great shows as always. Listening to your Tuesday show, Old Soul had mentioned the Nevada rally and water misters. Water misters. That's got to be a misprint. I'm not sure if you follow Hal Sparks or not, but he went to the rally and took some footage. First off, there was way less than 3,000, the capacity, and way, way less than 2,000, Trump says. Anyhow, Hal was saying that there were two water misters in the crowd area, and one of those was near the stage. Oh, misters. I see what you're saying. Those tents are misting water to cool you off. I get you. Okay, I get it now. In the crowd area, and one of those was near the stage and pointed at Trump, but the misters ran out of water, according to Hal. Gabrielle mentioned Heather Cox Richardson. I am too a huge fan of hers. She's very intelligent. I just wanted to let Gabrielle know HCR is on YouTube as well. Thanks, Steve in Canada. Is she too big to get on the show? Would she come on the show with us? I get her emails too. I don't read a lot of it because I'm a lazy bastard, but a lot of you folks have a lot of good things to say about her. I could try, but I'm a nobody. She's a somebody. Probably not, but I'll give it a shot. What the fuck? P.S. Mary mentioned Aileen Cannon's husband. I heard a rumor the other day that the RNC is funneling money to Cannon through this restaurant corporation. Not sure if it's true, but interesting and plausible. Very plausible. I mean, that's how the Republicans do business, funneling money. That's what Donald Trump does. That's what Donald Trump is having done to him. Money being funneled, maybe called money laundering, which is illegal. Stephen Canada, thank you very much. Next one starts out, Hi, Boomer. As you can see, I have a new email. I'll be writing to you on this one from now on. I just heard again someone lamenting that the election is so close. People aren't paying attention to how horrible it would be if the orange turd gets elected. All that stuff. How can Joe Biden, who has so much going for him, be only at 50%? It's not fathomable. We must be able to crush the turd, get rid of his lies. He was found not worthy to run his own company. How can so many people want him to run the country? Even Hannity is suggesting he needs to step down. Well, it's close if you believe the polls, and you know from past podcasts and TikToks, I'm not buying the polls. I never buy the polls. The polls are always wrong. They were wrong in 2022. They were wrong in 2020. They were wrong in 2016. So why would we believe that they're going to be right this time? It's just something more to worry about. And I think a lot of people go out of their way to find things to fucking worry about. Anyway, the email continues on. The right has Fox, Newsmax, OAN, all those other ones that aren't big enough to remember the names of. They have social media dedicated to the right, radio shows, podcasts, blogs, members of Congress, conspiracy theories galore, and all that other stuff. And everyone left or right are hearing it 10 times a day. That way more that's way more avenues than we have to get information to people. We have MSNBC, sort of, a couple of East Coast newspapers, and a bunch of podcasts like yours, and all sorts of lawyers, TikTokers, and smart people. Here's the backwards part. I think we're asking the wrong question. It's not why is Joe Biden only able to get 50%. The question should be, with all their lies, disinformation, and outlets, not to mention cheating, why are they only at 50%? I agree that he can't win. I heard just today none other than Rachel Maddow suggest that she doesn't think there'll be any debates either. Vote blue, Grandma Patty. P.S. I have a new Facebook account too. I sent you a friend request. Please look for it. I will do that, Grandma Patty. New Facebook and a new email. Sounds like you got hacked. I'll check you out, Grandma Patty. I'll be honest with you. I post a lot on Facebook. I don't read a lot on Facebook. I know, but I'm a lazy bastard. So I'm usually looking for news stories and then investigating the news stories so I can talk about shit. I don't find a lot on Facebook that's beneficial to me. I just see Trumplefucks that I feel compelled to go after. And then I have to pull myself back saying, it's just not fucking worth it. All right. This one comes from Darren. I believe he's in Montana. Yeah, he is. Hey, Boomer, like I've always said, over 50% of the people in Montana could be convicted of the same crimes as Hunter. What's amazing is he's keeping his mouth shut. Brilliant. Our country elected a president that does not have that skill set. Hunter is a man and not a petulant child like Donald Trump. His dad is the only choice for our country. I, like you, see zero chance that Trump wins. Why do people get so wound up? It's finally in good hands, and we need to trust the process. Peas, shout out Panzer. Love all you boomers, Darren. And if you remember, Darren's a younger guy. So thank you to Darren. I appreciate you writing, and all of you folks that write in. I think it's an important part of the show. As I've said, I love the input from the listeners, whether you be on the show or whether you send us emails. I love seeing it. And you always have some interesting perspectives. And you're all very smart, in many cases, smarter than I am. I'm just kind of the ringmaster here. You all are the brains of the operation. All right. Now, we were talking about Hunter's trial. This jury in Delaware found the president's son guilty of illegally owning a gun. in 2018. Now, the government said Hunter Biden was addicted to drugs when he bought a pistol that October and that he lied on a federal form when he checked a box saying he wasn't an addict. I was just thinking about that. Donald Trump lied on his taxes, but he said, it's good though, because I put a disclaimer on the front. Maybe that's what Hunter should have said. Um, Signed it saying, I'm not an addict, but then putting a disclaimer on the front that says, that could be true and maybe it's not true. It's up in the air. Um, Jurors agreed, and Biden now faces time behind bars. The case has major political significance coming as former President Donald Trump and the entire Republican Party mount an all out assault on the U.S. justice system over its supposed weaponization by President Joe Biden against Trump, who faces federal charges for hoarding classified documents and trying to steal the 2020 election. Isn't that interesting? I was talking about this on TikTok. It seems like every talking point, every complaint that the Republicans have against Joe Biden have been taken away from them. Like, for example, Joe Biden keeps the border wide open, lets everybody in. Well, that's funny, given the fact that Joe Biden and the Democrats have put up a bipartisan border bill, the most stringent ever, twice, and twice the Republicans knocked it down. They said, Joe, why don't you make an executive order? So he does, and they say, oh, it's not enough, or there's something wrong with it. They don't care about the border. They care about making Joe Biden look bad, and they're having a tough time. The border is no longer a talking point. They tried to say that Joe Biden was a criminal, that he took bribes, and that he would get impeached. The unfortunate part of this is that there is no evidence and there is no witnesses. None. So that's not a thing. And then they say the DOJ is weaponized against Donald Trump. Well, that's interesting because the DOJ just convicted Hunter Biden, the president's son. Now that takes away yet another talking point from Donald Trump and the Trump-a-fucks. They can't win for losing. Every time they turn around, everything they claim gets disqualified. Now, the Department of Justice has thrown the book at Hunter Biden, hitting him with illegal gun ownership charges that are rarely prosecuted as a standalone case without some other misconduct related to the firearm, like he used it in a liquor store robbery, or he shot at somebody, or he actually shot somebody. Nothing like that at all. It was just strictly having this gun for a total of 11 days, and most of those 11 days, it was locked in a box. But this is egregious to the Republicans, and they pushed it to the hilt. The week-long trial humiliated the first family. The guilty verdict could send the president's son to prison, and he still faces another trial this fall for allegedly failing to pay his taxes. Now, during closing arguments on Monday, prosecutor Leo Weiss reportedly gestured toward First Lady Jill Biden and other members of the Biden family in the court gallery, saying, respectively, none of that matters. Hunter Biden had originally struck a plea deal with the prosecutors last year, as you know, but the agreement fell apart under questioning by District Judge Mary Ellen Norica, which revealed a disagreement between Biden's legal team and the prosecutors about whether the government would still pursue other charges against Biden related to his international business deals. So Biden pleaded not guilty. Even though he didn't deny buying the gun, and he admitted in his 2021 memoir that he was constantly smoking crack cocaine around the time of the purchase, the government used the memoir to make its case and also called to the stand Biden's ex-wife and ex-girlfriend and his late brother's widow, Hallie Biden, with whom he had a disastrous affair. Let's be honest, Hunter Biden was kind of a fuck-up. But that's what happens when you're on crack. Addiction is a horrible thing. A lot of people in this country have had dealt with family members or friends that were addicted to any number of drugs, especially crack. These people change into something different. They will do virtually anything to perpetuate their addiction. So it's not surprising that he did these things. But the fact is, he did. If he had the gun while he was addicted to drugs, well, then he should be punished for that. And as much as the Republicans don't understand it, I think we're all cool with that. It's not like Joe Biden did this. Hunter Biden isn't running for president. And so I don't see how they equivocate this to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, but it's a long shot, and that's all they have. Now, in his memoir, Beautiful Things, Biden wrote about his life unraveling after his older brother, Beau Biden, died of brain cancer in 2015. He would leave his family for weeks, saying he was attending a rehab clinic, only to hole up in hotel rooms and smoke crack every 15 minutes. By late 2016, Biden wrote, I possessed a new superpower, the ability to find crack in any town at any time, no matter how unfamiliar the terrain. Now, during the trial, prosecutors played recordings of Biden narrating that line and others from the audiobook. Biden wrote that. He sobered up in 2019 after meeting his now wife, Melissa. Now, Biden's legal team tried to argue that he was not necessarily on crack or addicted to drugs at the exact moment he bought the gun, contrary to the story he told in his own book, which has been corroborated by pictures and messages that were taken from his laptop. Now, what the defense was trying to do there is trying to create a reasonable amount of doubt. It's really hard to say he was absolutely addicted to crack at the moment he bought the gun. But what does that mean, addicted? Could he have been sober for a period of time before he got the gun? Sure. Was he probably? Probably not. But see what I mean? There's a reasonable amount of doubt, and that's what a defense team tries to do. Apparently, there was no reasonable amount of doubt because, well, they fucking convicted him, and probably rightly so. Now, as I said, Biden only had the gun for 11 days before Hallie Biden, his girlfriend at the time, found it and threw it away. Now, the terms user or addict are not defined on the form, and were not explained to him, Biden's attorney said in their trial brief. Looking for a technicality. That's maybe a shady way to do it, but that's exactly what Donald Trump would do. Well, you didn't say that exactly, so I'm exonerated. Someone like Mr. Biden, who had just completed an 11-day rehabilitation program and lived with a sober companion after that, could surely believe he was not a present tense user or addict. Biden's attorneys also argued before the trial that the form asking about drugs use was itself unconstitutional under the modern judiciary's understanding of the Second Amendment. But Norica rejected that argument. And I'm curious as to why she rejected it. Again, the NRA is in charge. The NRA and Republicans have one point of view that anybody can have a gun. They can have as many guns as they want, whether it be semi-automatic or a pistol, or a revolver, I should say. Pistols can be semi-automatic too. It's just a funny thing. The Republicans are all about everybody should have guns, even if you're mentally diminished. But in this case, they felt strongly about Hunter Biden breaking the law. And as I said before, well, okay, if you're going to make that point, let's follow through. As Darren pointed out, in Montana, there's probably half the people with guns that broke that law that may be addicted to drugs at this moment. So maybe we need to check into that. Maybe we need to start testing gun owners to see if they are drug addicted. And if they are, take the guns away from them. And if they can't get the guns, then prosecute the motherfuckers. That makes sense, doesn't it? But see, that's not how the Republicans are going to look at it. They only had one thing in mind when they were doing this, and they were out to get Joe Biden. They were out to make him look bad. And as I told you, that didn't work. He doesn't look bad. He looks like he's very presidential and a caring father in his quotes that were printed, whether it was on, can't remember where they came out. Maybe it was X or out of a press conference or what have you. But Joe Biden handled it very professionally, very reasonably, and very credibly, something that Donald Trump and all the Republicans don't seem to have the capability of doing. As I've said, they tried to make Joe Biden look bad, and all they did is make him look good. They're still saying, well, he'll just pardon him. Joe said he wouldn't. And unlike Donald Trump, Joe doesn't lie that often. He usually stands by what he says. So if he says he's not going to pardon him, that should be the case. I will tell you this. If by some chance he were to lose in November, on January 19th, I'd pardon him and a bunch of other motherfuckers too, just like Donald Trump did. He pardoned Manafort, Stone, tons of people that are true criminals that were prosecuted and convicted of felonies and went to jail. But Donald Trump just let them go. He pardoned Steve Bannon. Now Steve Bannon's going to go on trial. Well, he's going to go to jail first July 1, but he's going to go on trial for from stealing money from Trumplifox. Imagine that. And they still want to protect him. That's how silly and stupid these people are. All right. We will take a quick break and we will be right back. Well, now that Hunter Biden is convicted of 3 felony charges, you would think the Republicans would be happy, but they're not. They have more conspiracy theories. They're not happy at all because it didn't turn out like they expected. It made Joe Biden look good, not bad. And there was no interference by Joe Biden or anybody else in this case, which they expected. They kept telling us that that's what was going to happen. They're still trying to tell us that Joe Biden will pardon Hunter Biden. But Joe said no. But there is more conspiracy theories. And this just shows how pathetic the Republicans are in the right wing media. I know I sound redundant when I call them pathetic, but that's really the best description of them. Fox News host Jesse Waters and House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chair James Comer of Kentucky, you talk about fucking pathetic, on Tuesday suggested Hunter Biden is taking the fall for President Biden after being convicted of federal felony gun charges in Delaware. Holy fuck. Yeah, Hunter Biden's the sacrificial lamb that Joe Biden put up there so he'd get away with all his crimes. You mean all the crimes that you have no evidence for? The ones you keep talking about, the ones you were hoping to impeach him with, but nobody came up with any witnesses of any importance, and they came up with no evidence. Now, Waters, was speaking with Comer on Tuesday night, asked the Kentucky Republican if the president's son is taking a fall to save his dad. Well, it sure looks like that, Comer said. James, when are you going to stop opening your mouth? Because every time you do, you look like a fool. You get embarrassed. Have you no shame? Have you no shame? Comer went on and said, so until the Department of Justice takes the real serious crimes into account, justice has not been served. If I list the top 10 crimes the president's son committed, lying on a gun application wouldn't even make the cut. Well, why did you prosecute him for it, though? Why? Because it's the one thing you could prove. All these other things you claim he's done and that Joe Biden's done, no evidence. Evidence is a thing. You kind of need that if you want to charge somebody. Trust me, if you had evidence, you would have charged Joe Biden at this point. But remember, you can't indict Joe Biden while he's president. There's that memo over at the DOJ. That's why Donald Trump did not get indicted after the Mueller report. As much as he said he was exonerated, there were at least 10 occasions of obstruction of justice by Donald Trump. But because he was president, he could not be indicted for it. Now, of course, as we were talking about, Hunter Biden found guilty on Tuesday, 3 felonies. President Biden reaffirmed last week that he would not pardon his son and would accept the outcome of the case, which is exactly what he did. And Comer says, you know what? He looks like someone that's got a pardon in his back pocket, Comer said. People asked today, will the president pardon Hunter Biden? Well, they're not finished. The Department of Justice isn't finished with him. Comer pointed to Hunter Biden's upcoming tax evasion trial in California, along with a criminal referral sent by Comer and two other GOP leaders asking the DOJ to bring criminal charges against the president's son and brother, James Biden. Well, it seems to me, James Comer, it sounds like you and your brother has some sketchy tax issues too. Isn't that the case? Maybe once we've got the Democrats in the House and in the Senate and in control, maybe we should investigate James Comer. You sound like you got some shit in your back pocket, and it sounds like laundered money. The 65-page referral accuses Hunter and James Biden of lying to lawmakers during conversations with investigators and withholding information as part of what appears to be conscious, calculated effort to insulate Joe Biden from the duly authorized impeachment inquiry. Well, God damn it, they must have been very successful at it because there was no impeachment. The matters in question, however, have limited connection to the president. Oh, funny. You want to impeach him, but there's nothing tying this to the president. As I said many times before in the past week, we're not finished. Oh, God, no. You guys are so tough. You haven't done fuck all in 3.5 years, and now we're supposed to believe that you got something going? Sorry. You're like the boy who cried wolf. Nobody believes your bullshit. The criminal referrals are just the beginning of the accountability phase. Oh, no. Oh no, just the beginning? Oh, Armageddon is in front of us. He goes on to say, we've gone through great lengths and we've been very transparent and substantive with the American people about the money his family has taken. No, you have not been transparent. That's why you have all your hearings behind closed doors. You have not been transparent, nor have you been substantive. If you were substantive, there might be some fucking evidence and maybe, I don't know, a witness or two that you could put up there. You have not been transparent. You have not been substantive. And just because you say it doesn't make it so. All right, let's talk about another Republican dumbfuck. Senator Lindsey Graham plans to block the Democratic legislation to institute ethics reforms at the Supreme Court, vowing he will object. I bet you will, Lindsey. Don't forget to bring your parasol and your Judy Garland red shoes. What this is about the Supreme Court and all the criminal shit going on there, and we'll talk more about that. But the Democrats want to put forth some kind of ethics reforms for the Supreme Court. Seems to make sense if you got people grifting money to the tune of $4 million, as is in the case with Clarence Thomas. Maybe we ought to set up some rules, some guidelines that Supreme Court justices can't do. You can't take money from billionaires from everywhere. Now, here's the thing. This bill will not pass. Lindsey Graham doesn't have to block it. There isn't enough votes to get it passed. Like the rest of the shit we've talked about, nothing is going to pass until we do our job, vote the motherfuckers out, get a majority in the House and the Senate, then we can pass these sorts of things. I don't know if this is symbolic or what. According to NBC News, the South Carolina senator's comments came after the Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, said earlier on Tuesday that he would make a unanimous consent request to pass the Supreme Court ethics legislation that the panel advanced last July. Now, it will not pass, so why would he put it up for a vote? Well, it's pretty clear that the Supreme Court is corrupt. And I think Dick Durbin wants to put it up there to illustrate and to reveal who's against putting guidelines on the Supreme Court. While most of the country, 70% of the country, thinks they are corrupt and there needs to be changes. So they'll put this up in hopes of fixing the situation, knowing that it won't pass. But what it will do is it'll reveal all the Republicans that refuse to put any accountability on the Supreme Court. The South Carolina Republicans' objection means the bill would not be able to move forward because any senator can block a request. Legislation blocked in such a way cannot advance without 60 votes to move to cloture on a filibuster, which would require 9 Republicans to join all Democrats. It isn't clear if the measure will come up for a vote under normal process, but Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he's considering it. The report continued, even before Graham's comments, Democrats doubted the legislation would advance. I think I know the outcome, but we're going to go through the exercise to make sure both parties are in the record. And again, that's the point. The point is to get on the record who's for accountability with the Supreme Court and who isn't. And trust me, that will be used in the campaign between now and November. Now we got all kinds of shit going on there between Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito alone, all kinds of gifts, all kinds of support for the insurrectionists. These people are just bad people. And they should be sent packing. They should not be in the Supreme Court. They are absolutely the wrong people to have in the Supreme Court. But again, as I've said before, and as much as I hate to say it, nothing can really be done until we get the Republicans out of the House and maintain a majority in the Senate. Then we're going to have to do some other things. We're going to have to get rid of the filibuster so we can pass things with a simple majority as opposed to a super majority. A lot of shit we got to do. And once we get through this election, it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen the next day. We're pretty deep in the hole right now. We got to dig ourselves out. All right. Representative Jim McGovern, the Democrat from Massachusetts, went off on House Republicans during a meeting of the Rules Committee on Tuesday, where he accused them of having Trump derangement syndrome. Now, we know the term is frequently used by supporters of Donald Trump to describe his detractors, suggesting they are obsessed with maligning the former president. The Massachusetts lawmaker juxtaposed Republicans' reaction to Trump's criminal conviction last month to Democrats' response to Hunter Biden's conviction on Tuesday. Trump was, of course, found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records. In the former instance, Republicans slammed the verdict and even claimed Joe Biden was behind the state charges in New York. Meanwhile, regarding his son, the president said he accepts the outcome of his son's trial. Now, McGovern slammed Republicans' allegation with the president has weaponized the justice system. He says, did Hunter Biden walk out of that courthouse this morning and slam the judge or the prosecutors? Did he claim some vast conspiracy to weaponize the legal system against him? No, he did not, even though that's exactly what happened. In a statement on the verdict, President Biden said, I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process. He went on to say, now I ask after the verdict this morning, how can any Republicans in their right mind argue that the Biden administration is weaponizing the DOJ to hurt Republicans and help Democrats? They just convicted the president's own son, to say nothing of the fact that the Department of Justice is currently trying a Democratic senator and has indicted a Democratic member of the House. I mean, do Republicans still believe that President Biden is weaponizing the justice system? Because if he is, he's sure doing a lousy job. And as usual, the only Trump derangement syndrome going on around here is on the other side of the aisle. I mean, people are saying that Biden orchestrated the conviction of his own son in order to justify the criminal charges against Trump. That's what they're doing. It's that fucking silly. This is how you think when you're in a cult. This is what the politician said. So here's the bottom line. Republicans just can't wrap their heads around the idea that their presidential candidate, your presumptive nominee, is a convicted felon. This is not the result of a sham process or some vast conspiracy by the Biden administration. This is a result of the truth. And these attacks on our justice system have to come to a stop. Now, the unnamed lawmakers are Senator Bob Menendez and Representative Henry Cuellar, both Democrats, both corrupt criminal motherfuckers, I hope, go to jail. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. They're criminals and they deserve to pay the price for their misdeeds. Now, this is kind of interesting. Fox Corporation board member and former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, trashed Donald Trump on Fox News. Now, Paul Ryan was quite a Trump humper in his day. He's doing it on the Trump humpers flagship station, Fox News. But Paul Ryan said Donald Trump was unfit for office. Now, Ryan appeared on Tuesday's show Your World and discussed November's election between Trump and President Joe Biden. It's going to be a very close race, said host Neil Cavuto. I think they're terrible choices that they're being presented with, and that's just what the primary voters selected, and I regret the fact that that's where we are. Cavuto then read some of Ryan's remarks back to him, in which Ryan called Trump an authoritarian narcissist and said the former president lacks the character for the job. That's pretty strong, Cavuto said. Ryan replied, well, that's the way I feel. I voted for him in 2016, hoping that there was going to be a different kind of person in office. I do think character is really an important issue. If you put yourself above the Constitution, as he's done, that shows you're unfit for office. But what happened? The host asked. What turned you? Was it the whole January 6th thing? He said, that's part of it. Ryan reiterated that Trump has placed himself above the Constitution and repeated that Trump is unfit for office. The former speaker made clear during the interview that we will not vote for Biden. Well, who the fuck are you going to vote for then? He says, I don't support Biden either. He said, I think his policies are terrible. Well, that's funny. The economy's doing well. People are doing better. Inflation is coming down. Gas prices are coming down. Please tell me what policy you don't like. Elsewhere during Ryan's appearance, Cavuto read some of Trump's mean social media post about him, in which the former president called the ex-speaker a loser. Yeah, they were buddies for a long time, weren't they? They were best pals. But now he's a loser. This is how everybody who associates with Donald Trump ends up. They always end up with Donald Trump calling them to task. Ever notice that? Everybody that's worked for him is now testifying against him or talking shit about him. Every politician that supported him ultimately will stand up and say, this fucking guy. But here's the problem. There are still many politicians that continue to stand by him, and they've stood there too long. Once this is all over, and trust me, it's coming to a culmination after November 5th, when it's all said and done, all these people will try to scurry away from Donald Trump. And they might be able to do that because Donald Trump will go into hiding under a rock or in a prison someplace. But as they're scurrying away, there will be people like me and you to remind them, no, you stood with Donald Trump. You're Donald Trump's buddy. We can't trust you. You're out of business when it comes to politics. I'm convinced that's what's going to happen. These people will regret their sticking with Donald Trump. They think now it means votes and money to them. They've got to be coming to a realization, though, right now, that it's not working as well as it once did, and it's sliding quickly. The money's not there for Donald Trump. The support's not there. Most of the people he's ever endorsed haven't won. And why? Well, because people just don't like Donald Trump. As much as they will tell you, oh, everybody likes Donald Trump, that's not true. There's a small percentage of mentally challenged people that like Donald Trump, the base, the Trumplafucks. But the rest of the people that would just vote for him because they always vote Republican, even they can't stomach Donald Trump right now. We're seeing that in the primaries with the Republican Party. Donald Trump is losing anywhere from 15 to 25% to Nikki Haley, and Nikki Haley's not even on the fucking ballot. If you don't have a unified Republican Party, there's no way a Republican candidate can win. Throw on top of it that half the independents are saying, I can't vote for Donald Trump either. If you have that scenario, there's no way the polls can be close if you're taking the polls properly and they're legitimate polls. You can't not consider that Joe Biden is outraising Donald Trump by double. How does that make sense? If they are even in the polls as far as support, why is Hunter Hunter, I'm sorry, Joe Biden fundraising twice as much as Donald Trump. The math doesn't work out there. And what that tells us is that these polls are rigged to a certain extent, to steal a phrase from Donald Trump. And I don't mean rigged in the sense they talk about the elections. I'm saying the people who own these polls, the people who control these polls, have an agenda. And the agenda is to help Donald Trump win. And they think that if they can make it look close for Donald Trump, somehow their will magically make it happen. But the fact of the matter is when the votes start to come out in November, you're going to find out very quickly that Donald Trump is not going to be close. He is the absolute worst candidate from a major party for president of the United States in the history of this country. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at all that's going against him. Tell me in history when any candidate who had 34 felony charges against him could be a legitimate and real candidate. Never. Now, we are in different times right now, but still, that's taken a pretty heavy toll. We're seeing it in the polls right now. Donald Trump's not going to win. No one can convince me of it because no one can give me any facts or data that shows that he has a possibility. So I've said before, 2020, he loses by 7 million votes. What has he done since 2020 to gain votes, to gain support? He has done absolutely nothing. He's absolutely done the exact opposite by wrapping his arms around overturning Roe v. Wade and claiming credit for it, if that's what you want to call it. That in itself is enough to lose an election for any candidate, presidential or otherwise. That alone is enough. But now we have the 34 felony charges and all the other bullshit, the fact that he's running out of money, that he has nothing going for him, that he's losing his mind. He can't complete a full word, let alone a sentence. So he doesn't have a chance. Now, people always talk about Project 2025, and I'm not all that excited to talk about it because the whole thing is intended to create a certain amount of fear in people. And that fear could only be realized if Donald Trump wins the election. And I'm not convinced that he has a chance of winning the election. No chance. So then Project 2025 isn't a thing. And people say, well, what about 2028? They'll just bring it back. No, they won't. Because after 2024, they will find out that the whole concept of MAGA and this whole Project 2025 isn't working for them anymore. They're going to have to deal with more young people in 2028, and they're going to have a young candidate. And they aren't going to be able to have a chance in 2028 against this young candidate after going through 4 years of Joe Biden and getting things done for the people. They're going to like it. There's no chance that that's going to happen. Now, Donald Trump, greatest enemy. And now, if you want to talk about Project 2025, I think this is part of it, but it gives you an idea of the things he's thinking about. Donald Trump has no greater enemy than the United States federal bureaucracy. That's what he calls the deep state. And he has a plan to bend it to his will. Now, what's that plan? The plan to create something called Schedule F would make tens of thousands of civil servants easier to fire, fundamentally changing the nature of federal government, and some worry paving the way for authoritarianism. Well, that's exactly what that is. He needs total control over everything and everybody. Now, Schedule F is a new category or schedule of federal workers who are exempt from codified job protections like being hired and fired based on merit and having the ability to appeal the disciplinary action. That's funny. I was a government employee, and while I retired, I was getting pushed out for no other reason than my age and how much money I was making. I don't even know if that's a thing. I think people are constantly getting run out of their jobs, whether it be governmental or private. Here, I'll tell you something about government employment. If a job comes up in a government setting, they have to, by law, do interviews with anybody and everybody who comes in, right? They have to. But they already know who they're going to hire for the job. They already know. And they're going to game the whole system in order to get that person in. There are rules out there, but people know how to circumvent those rules. They know how to get around them. So I'm not sure this is a big deal anyway. But this gives you an idea of what's in that delusional, twisted mind. Now, the majority of federal civil service employees, from climate scientists to bank examiners to IT specialists, are covered by these protections. Some positions, like postal workers and intelligence officers, are currently exempt. The system ensures that experience and skill, rather than political favoritism or personal connections, guide hiring and firing decisions within the federal government. Wow. You don't think Donald Trump would hire people based on favoritism, would you? Look at his cabinet when he was president. These are all buddies or people he thought would help him out with finances, or clout, or whatever the fuck he has. So Donald Trump is all about that. Certainly nepotism. Why in the world would Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner be given high level cabinet, or not cabinet, high level advisory jobs? These people weren't qualified. They had no experience. But Donald Trump doesn't care about that. He just wants somebody in there that is going to do his bidding, bend to his will. And if you don't bend to his will, then he wants the opportunity to just fire you. And he wants to do that with all of the civil servants in this country. Well, you know what that would do? That would cause fucking chaos. Now, I'm not saying that civil servants shouldn't be uh, critiqued on merit and those sorts of things. I can tell you this, by working in the government, there's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money doing fucking nothing. There's a lot of money that's spent ridiculously in government. I've seen it. So some things need to change, but the idea that Donald Trump has here is absolutely ridiculous. Donald Trump is like the guy who goes hunting for squirrels and uses a 10 gauge shotgun. He has no clue what he's doing or what damage he will do once he sticks his nose in anything. We've seen it. We've seen what he did diplomatically. We've seen what he's done internationally. We've seen what he's done domestically. Everything he's done, he's fucked up. And his intention is to get to be president again and start fucking up more things. That's what he wants. That's apparently what the Republicans want. And that's what needs to be stopped. As I said, Donald Trump has no chance of winning in November. No chance. I've asked people before, you think he can win in November? Please tell me why. And you know what? Nobody is able to tell me one data point that really says, yeah, no, maybe. Nothing. It's all emotions. It's all fear, or the media said this. That's all bullshit. Look at the facts and then tell me how Donald Trump wins. There's just no fucking way. I'm going to wrap things up talking about something I'm really looking forward to. And that's the one thing about doing what I do, or you listening to what's happening, is there's always something to look forward to. There's Donald Trump's trial and his convictions. We were looking forward to that. We were looking forward to his probationary hearing, pre-sentencing probationary hearing. We got that done. We were waiting to find out what was happening with Hunter Biden. We got that done. So now, what do we have to look forward to? The other trials may be after the election, and the election's what, 4 or 5 months away. So we got to have something to look forward to. Oh, but we do. We have the debate to look forward to. And as an emailer pointed out early on, I believe, and a lot of people believe, that Donald Trump will not show up. He'd be a fool to show up. So given that, I hope he does show up, because he will pretty much end it for himself when that happens. But I think he'll bail on it. What's interesting is he's the one that brought it up. He's the one that was crowing about it. And the reason he was demanding it, well, two reasons. First, he didn't think Joe Biden would take him up on it this early in the race, because most debates don't happen this early in the race. And secondly, he needed attention. He needed a way to fundraise. He needed something, because he was sinking fast. Well, Joe Biden said, sure, I'll debate you not only once, but twice. Here's the ground rules. And by the way, Wednesdays are open for me if they are for you, kidding him about the trial. Well, that pissed off Donald Trump, and Donald Trump immediately and quickly said, let's do it. And then they set up the dates, June 27th and someplace later. I don't remember what it was. Well, Donald Trump fucked up because he agreed to rules that work against him. His mic will be cut off. He'll have limited time. There'll be no audience. All things that would be an advantage to Donald Trump. And he was so angry and so fucking unhinged that he agreed to it. So now the debate is set up for June 27th. We're talking about what 2 weeks away? Yeah, about 2 weeks away, a little more. Now, what you're going to hear, because that's the one thing we're looking forward to. That's the next thing. Um, what we're going to start hearing is them. And when I say them, I'm talking about Donald Trump, his people, and even the right wing media trying to find a way to bail out of this. They know that he can't do this without looking foolish. All they have to do is watch the rallies. He's talking about batteries underwater and fucking Hannibal Lecter. He can't keep a thought straight. And when he's sitting across Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden is rather slow at this point, he will decimate Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will be embarrassed, which is the absolute worst thing Donald Trump could ever experience. Let's hope he doesn't realize he's going to get destroyed, because then he'll show up. And when he does, that's got to be the end for the people watching him. Even his closest confidants and even his biggest supporters have got to say, this motherfucker's unhinged. Now, now we'll see what happens. But I know that Sean Hannity went on the show and he was talking to somebody about the upcoming debate. And Sean Hannity said this: do you think it'd be a good strategy if Joe Biden or Donald Trump didn't go to the first debate? Do you think that'd be a good strategy? See, they're setting up the narrative. They're trying to tell a story ahead of time to make Donald Trump not look stupid or weak or a pussy ass bitch when he does bail out of that first debate. He'll make up something. Something will anger him or upset him. And he'll say, well, if you're going to do that, then I won't show up. I'm convinced that's what's going to happen. Like I've said, I'm convinced that he may not be the nominee. That said, I hope he is. I'm convinced that he won't be at the debate, but God, please let him show up. I would love to see it. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.